You are listening to the Wool Academy podcast. This is episode number 47.
Hello and welcome. My name is Elisabeth van Delden, and once a week we talk to an industry expert from the wool industry supply chain from farm to fashion and beyond, delivering strategies and insights to be successful in wool and showcasing those beautiful stories wool has to tell.
Today's guest is Nick Armentrout. Nick is the wool supply and supply chain leader at Ramblers Way, based out of Kennebec, Maine in the US. Ramblers Way is a men's and women's fashion apparel retailer. Ramblers Way was founded by Tom Chappell, who is best known as the founder of Tom's of Maine natural toothpaste. Nick will tell us all about how Tom Chappell ventured from natural toothpaste to wool clothing in today's show. Welcome, Nick. It's great to be talking to you today. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing very well, Elisabeth. Thank you for inviting me to be part of the Wool Academy.
Great. Thank you so much. And we're excited to have you. Let's start by you telling us a little bit more about yourself and the work that you do.
Well, thanks. I am in charge of the fiber sourcing and manufacturing supply chain for Ramblers Way. We're a company that was begun in 2009, and our focus from the very start was right on wool fiber, and I've been involved from the ground up, initially working with U.S. ranchers to source fiber, and then all of the different processors in our U.S.-based manufacturing supply chain. I'm not a classically trained textile professional. I've learned on my feet. My point of intersection with Ramblers Way is really agriculture. I've been involved with animal agriculture in particular, going on 30 years. So that was my interest, and I've just always been a consumer of wool. Here in the Northeast, it's a cold, damp climate, and wool just can't be beat.
I agree with that. And yeah, you already started talking a little bit about Ramblers Way, but tell us a little bit more about the company.
Ramblers Way is a casual lifestyle brand. While we, in fact, make some products that are designed to be worn next to the skin, we've never tried to be a performance type brand. We are making men's and women's clothing, knits and wovens and all kinds of things, but that are meant to be appeal to a conscious, environmentally minded consumer who is thinking about where their fiber comes from, the fiber in their clothing, how it's made. Sustainability and renewability are key facets of how we think, are key aspects of why we identify with wool, and are of interest to the people who follow and purchase Ramblers Way. We're a family-owned business. I work with my father-in-law, a brother-in-law, and sister-in-law, among the other professionals at the company. And this is the second business for our owner. His first business, which he ran successfully for over 30 years, was a natural oral care, a toothpaste product. And so we bring a family-owned, family values orientation to what we're trying to accomplish with a wool apparel product.
And if I understand correctly, Ramblers Way has actually quite a unique story. Can you maybe share that? What was the reason for starting Ramblers Way by Tom Chappell, the founder?
Sure. Yes, Tom Chappell. It was actually on the heels of selling his first business after 35 years. In 2006, he was hiking in Wales with one of his sons and thought that he had packed appropriately for the trip and the conditions, sort of a farmhouse to farmhouse hike. And he found that he was damp and smelly and uncomfortable with the products he had to keep him warm and dry. And here he was hiking across the countryside, often through pastures full of ranging sheep. And it was not a quantum leap to say, I think I could, make a better product than what I'm wearing. And why wouldn't I do that with wool? And while retirement or golf and grandkids were compelling, he really wasn't ready to hang up his businessman's suit. And an idea for Ramblers Way was born. Over time, that product vision grew in sophistication so that the intricacies of fiber quality and manufacturing capabilities became more important. But yes, our origin story does come down to a hike in the countryside of Wales.
Yeah, I love that story, and thank you for sharing that with us once again. And yeah, what I also understand is that because of his experience that Tom already had with his toothpaste company, he also found it very important to have really strong values connected to Ramblers Way. Can you talk about these values and how they are reflected in the company and the products?
Sure. Well, first of all, I don't want to gloss over the idea of wool as a fiber and a textile is something that we recognize. So in the Northeast here in the States, we are surrounded by the remnants of a once thriving woolen industry. I'm sitting in an old mill on the edge of a river that was part of that industry. And Tom Chappell, having innovated a natural toothpaste product, had very specific ideas on how he didn't want to make a textile product. So when we started, we actually started by going and looking for fiber. We didn't go into the marketplace looking for made wool textile. We went looking for fiber and started to build our textile product from the fiber forward. It was very important to us to have an understanding of how the producers, U.S. producers in particular, were managing their land and livestock. It was very important for us to understand how the wool was being processed, scoured, combed. We wanted to know the input in our supply chain as well as the output. So we were spending as much time on the mill floors as we were in the water treatment facilities, trying to understand the effluent that was created in the process. When we started in 2009, there was not a superwash scouring train available to us in the United States, and our supply chain was being built 100% sourced and made in the United States. So we couldn't pursue superwash and honor that American-made product goal. Working with the American sheep industry and some fantastic expertise, we were guided to finishing a different treatment protocol, an enzyme treatment, or the Simple X process for knit articles. We were trying to avoid the use of chloric acid. We've since learned more about that process, and we've since gone deeper into the treatments and the types of dyes. But these are primary examples for us, Elisabeth, of how our values are at work in the brand. Wanting to have firsthand working relationships, I call it from the ground up on the farm, to understand how the land is managed, the livestock are managed, but then also looking at the processing, applied chemistry or lack thereof in the making of our products. This absolutely harkens back to a toothpaste that was using naturally derived products to affect, clean dental hygiene.
So you really became students of wool, as you say, from the ground up.
That's a fantastic way to put it. Tom Chappell actually grew up in the textile industry. His father was involved in the woolen industry in Rhode Island and Massachusetts. But we absolutely have tried to sponge up as much information as we could all along. And we've had really remarkable support from the U.S. industry, but as well as the global industry. Folks who have been more than willing to talk with us and help us learn more. And it's important to note we've had that opportunity because we own the fiber. So we're a commission-based manufacturing model. We have discretion and oversight into the process, but that's also how we learn. That's also how we identify opportunities to innovate.
Oh, great. And you say that you are mainly or sourcing all your wool in the US. Can you tell us, take us on the journey from the farm to the shop of your all American wool products? Please describe it a little bit in your own words.
Sure. So, first of all, we're working directly, or I should say, have been working directly with fine wool producers here in the U.S. Those larger scale commercial flocks would be in Montana and Wyoming, Colorado, Idaho, and to an extent, New Mexico. So where we are sourcing fine, grade 80s or super fine grade U.S. fibers, they have to be a particular length. They have to be long staple fibers. We put together a blend from a number of different wool producers. Then we bring that wool across the country to South Carolina, where there's one single U.S. combing mill. So we can scour and make a combed top at that mill, Chargeur USA wool. We have a great spinning capacity in the United States, more so than we were led to believe initially. But in particular, we have been using Kent wool, also in South Carolina, that have a great conventional spinning as well as compact spinning capacity. Then our goods move up. We have been knitting in the past in North Carolina, circular knits there, very fine 28 cut knitting machinery, dyeing and finishing at the same mill. And then we would bring the fabric goods to our own sewing facility here in Kennebunk, Maine, as well as some other commission sewing around New England. More recently, we have grown this supply to include knitting, dyeing, and finishing in New England, to include spinning here right in Maine, package and yarn dyeing here right in Maine. And these last three elements, all New England based, are global organic textile certified manufacturers. And that has been the recent evolution of our wool supply. We have initially dipped our toe and are digging in deeper to developing a certified organic wool product. So while we are maintaining a U.S. supply chain, we are simultaneously developing a global wool supply chain built around the need for organic wool that is certified to the GOTS standard.
Yeah, is your decision is kind of the existence of the GOTS standard enabling you to then source your wool also internationally? Is that what kind of convinced you to?
Yes. So, this working from the ground up and sourcing fiber and owning the fiber forward in the process. When we decided, again, based on our values of low to no chemical input in the manufacturing, when we started to learn more about the GOTS standards, we felt very powerfully that GOTS was a standard system that aligned with a lot of things we held dear. But there's not a lot of certified organic wool in this country. We also, as a company, arrived at GOTS because there is, as a lot of your listeners will know, a very finite supply of fine, long staple wool available in the United States. So we've always had the challenge of volume of fine wool, U.S. sourced fine wool. So as we looked abroad for sourcing, we felt restricted in some ways to be able to quickly jump on a plane or get in a car and go and establish those firsthand working relationships with our suppliers. And so we needed standards and certifications to help us with that. And GOTS is, again, what we felt aligned with values we held dear. And so we've been using that as a sourcing strategy as we look at sourcing fine, long staple fiber internationally.
Okay, that is actually quite interesting way of making a decision, and that the certification is actually enabling you to expand your business. I never looked at it that way, so thanks for really sharing that. It's a new perspective for me. And can you also, while we still talk about Ramblers Way, talk a little bit more about your target group, and also let us know what is your target group's understanding of wool?
Sure. Our target group is still relatively broad. I mean, we are trying to appeal to, the 30 to 60-year-old. It's millennial to baby boomer. And when we started, we were more on the baby boomer consumer. But as we have worked deeper into the sustainable side of our business, sustainability, and taken on the challenges of trying to make, the most sustainable wool textile we can, we found we were learning more and getting an increased response from the millennial age group, the conscious consumer, who's thinking about the concept of stewarding more and consuming less. And a lot of young people are coming into that group and thinking deeper about what they put on their bodies, not just what they put in them. And, of course, over time, we are, as we all age, we're thinking more and more of that millennial consumer. On our website side of our business, which really is not my area, for instance, we have to think about folks who are increasingly making all of their purchase decisions from a handheld device, and how we talk and showcase our brand and our products. So that was a real eye opener for us.
So you have actually brick and mortar retail stores as well as an online shop.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yes, we have a website, and then we are in a process of opening more of our own bricks and mortar stores.
Okay. Yeah, and my second part of my initial question was that the question if your consumers already know wool or if you have to educate them about wool, because often we
Yes,
find there are some, prejudices that wool is itchy and scratchy and too hot.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So all of our customers have an orientation with wool, and on the a lot of them, their experience with wool is that it can be great in really cold conditions. Some of them might know wool's benefits in very damp conditions, but a lot of them still believe that wool is scratchy and uncomfortable. And we certainly have heard more than a few times, "Oh, I'm allergic to wool." Um, and of course, our answer is, "Well, you haven't experienced our wool. You need to give Ramblers Way wool a try." Um, Educating around the benefits um, is a big deal for us. It's um, we wanna let folks know that wool really is can be a 4-season fiber. There are 4-season wool fabrics. That wool isn't just about insulating against the cold. It can be for keeping cool and insulating against the heat. Um, but yeah, there's still a relatively large burden of education around wool. That's one of the reasons why we have opened our own stores. We had a wholesale business for a number of years, and there were plenty of times where those uh, those folks would say, "Oh, you've got a lovely product. Come talk to us in September." And by opening our own stores as a business strategy, we can showcase all of the different things we make, represent the brand how we choose to represent it, and then take on that education of the consumer firsthand. Because I mean, we're just really excited about wool and remain so, and wanna share our enthusiasm and what we feel is the great compelling reasons to be excited about wool.
Yeah, and through talking directly to the consumer, you also get immediate feedback that you can react on and use in your business as well.
That's true. And we in the stores we're operating now, we actually have on-site sewing and some tailoring. So not only can we have firsthand interaction with our consumers, but we're developing a capability to respond to some of what they're asking for or want to see from us.
Wow, that sounds really innovative. I would like to see that live once. And you already mentioned a few challenges during our interview now, but what would you say is your number one challenge today in your business?
From we're a business that's trying to grow, and we're a business that is trying to open stores to pursue and blow up this vision for our brand. So from a business growth standpoint, access to capital to grow a small family-owned business is definitely a key challenge for us. We're trying to uh, tell the world about Ramblers Way. We're still relatively unknown, and we're trying to, raise money to do that. That's not simple, um, and you can find yourself very much alone trying to build a business when you don't have access to all the capital you need, and you don't have lenders that are lending to businesses that's still in their infancy. Um, so that's a growth challenge, and that will, affect um, some of our volume and speed to success. Um, we've also been inherently challenged from the start with quality sewing of our products. That's why we have been building out our own sewing capability here in Maine. The very fine, very lightweight, what we would consider luxurious knit fabrics we make are very live under the needle. They're not um, a typical sweatshirt or French terry or fleece product. It's a little bit more performance or sports market and a little bit easier to handle. Our lightest weight wool jersey fabric is 4 ounces per square, or 140 grams per square meter. It's like pantyhose. And you have to have some pretty great skills to sew a garment out of that. So our answer has been to increasingly train and invest in our people and do it ourselves.
And do you expect more textile manufacturing to come back to the US? Do you see a trend there?
I wish I had a great crystal ball answer to that. On this end of the phone, Elisabeth, I see all kinds of activity that are businesses the scale of Ramblers Way and smaller. A lot of startups, particularly around the circular economy, recycling, upcycling, or boutique scale. Artisan, unique denims and unique wovens in cotton or wool. And I think that's all very hopeful activity. I know there has been large scale reshoring and reinvestment in the US. And there's a lot of talk about larger brands' interest in moving more to the US, particularly on the West Coast with California, where there's a lot of garment production, and on the East Coast here in New York State. Again, I don't want to overlook the remarkable yarn spinning capacity the U.S. has, and knitting that could be built upon and expanded still. We heard plenty when we started around the dying or dead U.S. textile industry, and we've not experienced that. It does take some creativity to piece together and build a U.S. supply, but there is a capacity here. And there are lots of strong indicators that it's not going away, that it can continue to grow in small and hopefully larger ways. I referenced our GOTS supply chain. I want to note, because I think it's important, even though we are outsourcing certified organic wool from outside the U.S., we bring that what becomes a spun yarn back into the U.S. for knitting, dyeing, finishing, sewing at the earliest opportunity. So even though we have a international sourcing and manufacturing strategy as well, there is a U.S. base here that we can rely upon to finish and make our fabric and clothing products. That if the U.S. textile industry was dead, we just couldn't even consider that. But there's lots to offer in the U.S. on the textile and apparel side for sure.
Yeah, and we're also seeing, I live in Germany, in Europe, so we're also seeing similar trends on the small scale of reshoring. So let's keep an eye on how things will develop in the future. My last question I would like to ask you, because you told us already your journey that you went on for Ramblers Way. What is your biggest learning that you can share with others who are trying to work with wool and maybe also start their own fashion business?
Well, I mean, first of all, wool is a fantastic option. So if somebody's interested in starting their own fashion business. I don't want to discount the exciting recycled and natural fiber, bamboos and viscose and all these other fibers that are out there. It's the evolution in textile fibers has been quite remarkable, and Ramblers Way has benefited from a lot of the growth in textile manufacturing for sure. But we certainly are choosing wool as being able to answer a lot of needs for a product. Wool has wonderful natural resiliency. It lends great stretch and recovery to a fabric product. Excellent drape, and then you have all the natural properties of wool. When you get in deeper to fiber qualities, you can influence the quality of the hand and the softness. So we just feel it's a great textile option. And I'm not just, of course, speaking about knits, wovens as well. There's opportunities. The other thing that draws us to wool is all of the opportunities to utilize manufacturing byproducts. So byproducts of combing, or byproducts of spinning, or byproducts of even cutting and sewing. There are so many opportunities to use the fiber that comes from those processes, alongside the hoped for finished product. There aren't enough hours in the day and days in the year to make products or the potential products that come out of the wool manufacturing process. I don't want to take away from other fibers, but boy, it's just when you start thinking about felt products or even skincare products, wool is really, truly remarkable.
Yeah, nothing gets wasted in the wool industry.
That's right. That's right. And boy, that's how very timely. What a very timely subject. So, in any case, yeah.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing that. Now, before we close, what is the best way for listeners to connect with Ramblers Way?
Well, certainly our website, which we try to keep up to date. We're updating it as we speak. We also have a Facebook page, Ramblers Way Farm, and we're involved with Instagram and Twitter and all that. But our website is a wonderful opportunity to learn more about our brand, how we do things, where we come from, where we hope to go, and what we're up to.
Excellent. And I will make sure to connect to your different social media accounts and the website also in the show notes, so that it's very easy for everyone to find out more about Ramblers Way. Well, Nick, thank you so much for your time today, and I wish you lots of luck in the future.
Oh, you're very welcome, Elisabeth. Thank you again for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, and bye-bye.
Bye.
I really enjoyed talking to Nick Armentrout from Ramblers Way today. If you want to connect with Nick and Ramblers Way, check out the show notes at elisabethvandelden.com/047. That's where you can find all the links that were mentioned in today's episode. Once again, go to elisabethvandelden.com/047. Just a quick heads up from my side, I am taking a 2-week break from work and from the podcast. But I don't want to leave you hanging. Therefore, during the next 2 weeks, I will be republishing 2 previous episodes that I enjoyed recording very much and where I learned from a lot. And maybe you have not yet heard them and hopefully will enjoy listening to them as well. Rest assured that I have more great interview guests lined up for you right after the break, and the next new episode will air on 12th of October. I wish you all the best, thanks for listening, and bye for now.